Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Process Podcast. Mr. Tuazon,
Mr. Haynes.
how you doing, buddy?
Good, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Actually, let me take that back. I'm actually doing really, really good.
Yeah, why are you really, really good?
So as you would know, I just got off the plane this morning, and I finally left China after 3 years. Yeah.
So you went to the States, I believe?
Yeah, I went to California. My brother and sister live there. So when they closed the borders because of lockdown, because of COVID, it was always like, first, no one can go in or out. And then there were a couple of years of long-term quarantine of somewhere between 2 to 3 weeks. And I've had a friend who's gotten quarantined for like close to 6 to 7 weeks. And I just couldn't do that to my family. So once the borders were fully open and we can go through on both sides without quarantine, then I just pulled the trigger and went to visit my brother and sister in California. And then tomorrow I'll fly to visit my mom in Manila.
Nice.
Yeah.
So literally just one day in Hong Kong?
One night, yeah.
Okay, before I ask you why are you in China,
Yeah.
I feel like a bit of context as to who you are and why you're on this podcast in the first place is in order.
Sure.
So I'll start with my introduction of you, and then you fill in all the holes that I missed, which is going to be a lot.
Okay, cool.
So we have met before.
Mm-hmm.
You had come to Old Coastal 1.0.
Yeah, Coastal with where the wall ball target was the corner of the ceiling.
Not even actually, technically, it was a ceiling. You get more speed back down. So noobs would go to the corner.
Okay.
Wise old men would go to the ceiling.
Perfect.
So you came to the Old Coastal.
Mm-hmm.
You dropped in and did some weightlifting sessions, I believe.
Yeah, you guys did a few weightlifting comps.
Yeah, that's right.
And back then I was only doing weightlifting.
Mm.
And I couldn't find any weightlifting comps in Shenzhen, but then in Hong Kong there was always a few. There was one at Coastal, one at the throwdown that you guys had, the downtown throwdown.
Yes.
Did
Did you compete with downtown throwdown?
only in the weightlifting?
Oh, because we had it was like the halftime show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a halftime show.
Shit, I forgot about that.
And then after that, my coach got me really into CrossFit. I was against my wishes.
Interesting.
And then I dove right into it.
Okay, so you dove into CrossFit. Mm-hmm. Now, at which point did you and the process programming come together?
So I was borrowing my friend's, he was on another program and I had his Wadify credentials. So I got the template for every day. And then every now and again, I'd try to do some banter on their Facebook group because I ended up being on the Facebook group as well for some reason. And there wasn't too much back and forth, but that was okay. And then lockdown happened. And then I was doing just whatever workouts I could do with bands, with, my socks against the wall, doing handstand push-ups, shit like that. And then at some point, you guys released the Gymless program, and I started doing that. And then I just asked you, once our gym was reopening in about April or May of 2020, I asked you if I can just jump into the program. You said, well, 2 weeks, and then see if you like it. If you like it proper, then we'll start a new upcoming block in the next few weeks. And that's basically how it started, and it's been like that ever since.
See, when people retell stories of things that happened during the pandemic, so which is really 3 years for us, we're just kind of all coming out of it a little bit here in China,
right,
and Hong Kong. It's like my perception of time is so warped. I think you've been with us for like 5 years, and it's actually crazy to hear that actually it was the start of the pandemic that is when you basically started with us.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because we knew kind of each other back when I was doing the weightlifting comps. And then I think whenever you go back and see how long you've known me through weightlifting and CrossFit, you always think it's longer just because we've seen each other around. And that's kind of how it is in China and Hong Kong anyway, because the weightlifting and CrossFit scene is pretty much, it's pretty small in terms of the degrees of separation is like 2 or 3 degrees at most.
I would say the Western Chinese population of China, because obviously weightlifting in China is humongous, but I guess like the crossfitting weightlifting, I guess that's kind of like its own unique segment.
Right.
It's probably quite small.
Yeah,
and
we're niche.
Yeah, exactly.
We're a niche group.
And when I think about your involvement in the process, I would say that pretty much everyone within the process programming knows at least the name Chris Tuazon, because they will have seen you or heard you on the water cooler, which is kind of like our daily chat forum.
Well, it's to be fair, whenever a question is asked, I don't know why I do this, but I always think of what would be like a funny answer. And then sometimes I would write it. Sometimes I'd even write it and not even hit send because I thought, all right, I'm just trying to look. This is gonna
offend Ed.
Why is that?
No, is that what you're thinking?
Oh no, it's not that. It's just more like, oh my God, can this guy shut up? Or so then I'd kind of go a little more conservative with it. But also there's really good conversation that takes place. So that was one missing element, I would say, between what I had previously with my buddies' workout templates and what we have at the process is people actually connecting over, first of all, the workouts. And then as we got more getting to know each other and figuring out our own strengths and weaknesses and our own vulnerabilities, talking about that in the context of exercise and improving our performance, but then like getting into what's going on outside of the gym, which I think is really what keeps me sticking around. I mean, the process itself, like the exercise selection and everything, how it's organized, I really love that, but I really do value the community aspect of it. And so coming to this place for the first time was wild because, you know, I walked in the door a couple hours ago and I saw some familiar faces that I saw on the screen. And then I was telling everyone, like, this is so bizarre that I'm talking to you in person. But I really love it. And that was all built over the last 3 years. So I mean,
what you're very welcome. And we appreciate you being a part of the community. And I was literally going to say that there would never, ever be a time where I don't think anyone would think, shut up, Mr. Tuazon, you're taking it too far, you're looking for attention. Like, I genuinely kind of bank on you now, you know, when we pose questions, because, you know, we like to put those questions out to encourage conversation. And, you know, we all love talking about working out, and that's easy for us to talk about. But it's, like you said, it's the conversations on the other stuff that's equally important.
Can I ask you something about that, though?
Yeah, of course.
Like, because it is just an open forum, and, you know, the participation on those questions, it's like, some are great, some are not so great. Do you ever have that hesitation before you hit enter of like, is this an engaging question? Or is it just, it doesn't matter, like at this point, it doesn't matter if it's an engaging question or not. I do want to express this. If it resonates, great. If it doesn't, we'll have another day. Yeah,
good question. Definitely the latter. You know, I think just because, especially with social media and something like public platforms, because essentially What Up is a public platform just for the process programming community. And those listening, if you don't know what we're talking about when we say the water cooler, it's basically like a daily chat forum. So every day when you see a workout, there's this at the top, it's called the water cooler, because I guess it's kind of a bit more of an American thing, isn't it? Like you hang around the water cooler and you chat about life.
Although as an American, I've never literally done that.
Oh, you never done that?
It's like an awkward place.
Are you really American?
I am really an American. It's not like Office Space.
So I think that not everyone likes to pitch their 2 cents on a public platform. But I think like observation and people who just read and take in what's been said and how that can have an impact on their lives is almost just as powerful. You know, so you're probably always going to have the same 3 to 5 to 10 people chirping in and sharing their thoughts on those questions. But I know just through conversation, this is what I think has really blown my mind since I've been traveling recently and visiting and connecting with the process program community, whether it's affiliates or subscribers around the world, is how much and how often people are watching. And you may never hear anything. You'll never hear a tweet about them appreciating a post, or you may never hear them say thank you for posting what you did. But then you connect with these people in real life, and you know, so often I hear how much a podcast impacted their life, or a post, or a conversation, or something that Chris and you talked about on the water cooler, like that changed my perspective on life. So that's something that I always have to, and I always remind my team here, is like, keep on doing the good work, keep on sharing it, keep on being vulnerable, keep on being open, share it on public platforms. Like, you just never know who's listening. And in the same way, like, someone is always listening. So you also need to be careful about what you say on a public platform, because you never know what impact that might have in someone's life. So yeah, definitely the latter. And if it gets no responses, then still all good. Still all good. But
I think it does touch on the point that online communities, as great as they are at connecting people, first off, it's a great touchstone for once you see each other face to face. Yeah,
it's like the ice is broken already. And I think just to continue on from that, like, nothing replaces the face to face, in my opinion.
Well, I've never done like online dating or Tinder or something, but that was always my fear. It's like, if I was dating in the era of Tinder and Bumble and all that, having those online conversations would be great, but I would have so much expectation about what that first encounter would be like. That would scare me off. And that's almost like how it was before I stepped into here today. It was like, am I going to be on the gym floor who they thought I was when we were like kind of, you know, chatting it up on What Up or on Instagram or whatever. And that's always something that is always so interesting to me, especially because of COVID, because I've made so many connections online because everyone's been home. And now that we're all getting out, we are meeting more people in person. And then that's always in the back of my mind. It's like, when you meet me in person, is that who you thought you were going to meet?
Yeah.
And I don't know. That makes me think about it.
Well, I think if I was to say, you know, what I think of you in real life versus the person I see on social media every day, I think those two people are the same person. And I think that's a real compliment. That was actually a compliment I received from one of my guests once, and said, you know, the person that he sees on social media and on the podcast every day seems like the exact same person that he meets in real life. And no one had ever said that to me before. And I thought that's a really cool thing. And that made me, when I went back to social media and went back to the podcast after that small comment, made me think about even more about being authentic at all times and making sure that the person I'm putting out there on whatever platform I'm on is truly me.
100%.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be effort, you know, and if it ever feels like effort, or I'm having to, I don't know, conjure up what to say, then I know immediately this isn't probably me. Yeah. And I'm manufacturing something that's not natural.
Yeah, 100%. I have that battle with myself every time I just start a conversation with someone. Is like, am I trying to have a genuine connection, or am I just trying to shoot the shit or whatever, or, you know?
And so where are you at with that right now?
I don't know. I just met with a bunch of people for the first time in California. You know, some of them I've connected with online beforehand, and some of them I just dropped into their gym. And that was like really cool about going to California as well, as dropping into these other gyms and learning from other coaches and getting to meet these new people. And yeah, I think now that I'm like 37, I just kind of say what's on my mind. As long as it doesn't hurt feelings or anything like that, then I'll just say what feels natural to me, and then see what goes from there.
Well, I mean, when you say as long as it doesn't hurt feelings, is that because you're worried about them not liking you? Or?
Oh my God, yes, absolutely. That might be one of my greatest fears, is if someone doesn't like me. That keeps me up at night sometimes.
Interesting. Yeah. Have you dug into that, where that stems from?
I think it's because part of it, and it might sound cliche, is I am a middle child technically. I have an older brother and a twin sister who I'm 5 minutes older than, so that literally puts me technically in the middle spot. And I've always been kind of like a mediator in arguments and stuff, and I've always tried to like settle disputes with my friends and stuff. So I've always tried to like maintain and create peace amongst others. So I think like I hate the thought of someone not liking me.
Do you find that that fear of someone not liking you sometimes pulls you out of being your authentic self?
Oh yeah. Like sometimes it'll just be like, what can I say just to make sure this conversation is going, and that I'm not going to say something that's like not aligned with what your values seem to be like. And then I always regret it afterwards, but it's like not something that I can do in the moment. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, totally.
It's like you're rolling with it and you're like, all right, let's have a good conversation and let's feel like we align with each other. And then afterwards it's like, oh, like, you know, there are a few things that I said in there that I actually don't believe or don't actually align with my values. And that's always interesting. It's just like human connection, and just what we do in order to create connections and maintain connections versus what is authentic to ourselves. How that comes together and how those don't align. It's always like, it's always an interesting concept to me.
I mean, I think at the very start of it, you need to know who your authentic self is. Right. And I think it's an amazing awareness that you can step out of these conversations and realize and reflect and be like, that was shit I said in there. I didn't truly align with. Why did I do that? That's annoying. But because I felt that a lot. But then it was, the next question was, well, who should I be? What should I be saying? What do I really believe in? Yeah. And I really feel that where I'm at now in my life is that I can't put it down on paper, but I know I've just got this deep feeling as to who my authentic self is, you know, and I want to operate as that person all the time. Yeah. And there are always challenges. Like I've talked about some podcasts before, like catching up with old friends you haven't seen in years, who maybe they only know that former version of Ed. Maybe Ed the rugby guy, or Ed like the school jock, or Ed the whatever, fill in the blank. And then naturally conversation goes back to the way it was 10 years ago, and making sure that I don't get pulled into that, and that I'm showing up as the person that I am now today. Yeah. That's like, I find one of the biggest challenges. What I've really liked as a bit of a challenge is, you know, this last 2 weekends I've been overseas doing these athlete camps, and you know, as someone who's running the camp, and I guess I guess being the person that's bringing it all together, then I think thinking back to younger Ed who was doing athlete camps would feel a pressure to people please and make sure that everyone there loves me because it's my camp and you come to my camp. But now I just was like just totally at ease and myself, and also knowing that if someone has made the decision to come to a process programming athlete camp, they are probably we are like-minded and connected in some way, shape or form.
Absolutely.
So if we're just all being our authentic selves, there is a very, very, very high likelihood they're all going to get along and have a great time. And so, my observation was sitting at the table for our welcome dinner. We had 30 people around this table. Younger me would have just been trying to entertain and tell jokes, crack a laugh, be making noise for the sake of making noise.
Because the silence is...
Because I was scared of silence. Yeah. Because silence represented... maybe that would mean that they think I'm awkward and I'm not funny, and therefore that's going to make them not like me. So it would all boil down essentially to people pleasing and making sure people liked me. Yeah. But now I don't care if people don't like me. All I can really do is show up as my authentic self. And if they love me, they love me. If they don't, that's totally okay. Yeah. We're just maybe not meant to cross paths at this point in our lives.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny because you're obviously in a leadership position, and I think that puts you at a certain perspective where it's that saying, I forgot how it goes, but it's like, what you want to, it's not about thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less, right? Like you want to do the latter, and that's like really liberating in terms of, all right, don't worry about yourself, just focus on what the task is, focus on what the priorities are, and then execute and just do what comes natural. And I think that's always the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think a big part of me in that context, again, thinking back to the athlete camps, is like making it a lot less about me. So I think in the past it would be like, I need to tell the stories, I need to be the funny guy, I need to do X, Y, and Z. And now the conversation is much more around like questioning and listening. Yeah. And actually, like, I love that. And I think this podcast has been an amazing teacher for me to be a better listener, and to listen like intensely. Yeah. And that's essentially what our welcome dinner was like. I ended up asking 30 people different questions to try and learn a bit more about them. And the conversation that ensued from those questions was deep and a little bit less superficial and pretty awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
I had a conversation like that with one of my friend's dads, who I haven't seen in years, because of circumstances there. Yeah. And I just kind of peppered him with a bunch because I know him really well and I feel like he's pretty comfortable with me. So I asked him questions that I think you're not supposed to ask, but like really gets to the heart of the situation that he was in. And he really just opened up. And I think it's really eye-opening that when you give someone a chance to really ask them like the real questions and not just, being nice or being people-pleasing, as it were. If you get to the real question, I think people always have a good intuition of what it is and where it's at. If you ask those real questions, then you get a real connection with somebody. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. That might be like my biggest priority right now, in all aspects of life, is that real connection.
Yeah. And I think that's the power of vulnerability as well. When two human beings share openly and honestly, the connection, like the relationship levels up in the wake of that conversation, knowing that, and I think a big part of vulnerability is not only being vulnerable when you're talking, but acknowledging vulnerability when someone else is being vulnerable.
100%.
Right. And I think that is just all my deepest relationships with friends or people around me. In all of them, there is a level of vulnerability and trust and openness in one another.
So when to kind of connect that back into like the training aspects, when you and the team were coming up with the process and the way that the community is run, and we have like notes on our own performance, how much of a priority was that to put ourselves in that spot of like, the vulnerability of how much were we chasing a number, if it was a percentage, how much were we trying to work up to a expectation that we think that we have of ourselves in our performance, and how much of it is us being honest about, I didn't get enough sleep last night, I probably should have pulled back. Or even like me, I just got off the plane, probably shouldn't have like tried snatching 80 kilograms downstairs. I made it, by the way.
You did,
but it was ugly as shit. You saw it.
No comment.
How much of that is that an intentional priority when you guys are putting together the program and the community?
Yeah. So I think it wasn't something that was an intentional thought for the process, but that's it. It just, the process is a reflection of the way that of where I was as a coach and having done this, I guess, for quite a while. Yeah. And like, in all honesty, CrossFit is like, they never need encouragement to go harder.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're good at going hard. We're good at lifting shit.
To a fault.
I would say to a fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like people in the CrossFit space don't need extra motivation to push that little bit harder. And in fact, I think, and this is why I believe so passionately in it, because I know that I did this many times myself and I've seen it happen millions of times, is that, if you want to be doing this thing for a long time, and that's not the only goal, right? I want people to be unlocking like elite levels of performance, but also to be not taken away from life outside of training.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess that's what longevity means. Longevity means, be able to do this cool stuff as an athlete for as long as you possibly can, but also this cool stuff that you do as an athlete is not taken away from the other aspects of your life.
Yes. And I think I would say I'm definitely at an age and a place in my life where I have several priorities that I want to keep up in the top 3, and a few priorities among those that I have to keep maintained in the top 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah.
That's with work, that's with parenting, that's with being a husband, like so many different things that I need to do that if I put too much into the training,
it takes away from those.
For sure. Like I've had a weekend where like I dug myself into like a weekend grave after maybe an open workout or a quarterfinals weekend. And like, I could barely pick up my kids because like my back was hurting. And I mean, every now and again, I guess that's part of it, but I don't want that to be habitual.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what longevity is, isn't it? It's like, not even not longevity, but I think that's what balance is in life. It's like constantly asking yourself, what is a priority in this season of life right now? Yeah. And am I living and acting according to those priorities? And that's going to change all the time. And you just need to be making adjustments to where you put your time and energy based on what's most important to you in your life right now. Yeah. But I think going back to your question is, I wanted to cultivate. I know that what actually allows an athlete to get the most in terms of performance, not just in the long term, but also now, is self-awareness. Right. And I think most athletes, especially like at the more recreational level, what I mean by that is people have full-time jobs but are wanting to pursue high levels of performance. So they don't have mindset coaches, they don't have coaches who are working on this stuff with them. Do you know what I mean? Which is basically most of the people on the process. I know that to unlock high level performance requires extremely high levels of self-awareness. But it's not just self-awareness. People need to actually understand the ramifications of stress and overreaching and under recovering and how to assess yourself on a day and give yourself what is appropriate based on what you have to give. All the things we talk about all the time. And so I didn't want to just write a program and just be like, hit this percentage, go all out here.
I don't think we do that very often at all.
We rarely do that. And there's a reason for that, is that I want people to see a training program and being able to ask themselves in the moment questions that will then dictate the intensity and the focus and the intention that they bring to that training session. And I know if we can do that with our community, we're going to have less injuries. We're going to have less burnout. We're going to have more short and long-term progress. And why the hell wouldn't we want any of those things? And so that's a slow grind, right? Because especially if people are coming from the volume or the intensity camp, they come to the process and they see that there's like, they're asking me a question as to what weight I should pick. I remember when you first started, actually, that was one of your questions, was like, you say mod heavy or you give me a percentage range, which one should I hit? Well, you decide. Like how you feeling. If you're feeling great today, strike when the iron's hot. And if you're feeling shit, exactly. And so that takes time, right? And the way that we're doing that is constant education of the same stuff. That means reiterating and saying the same things all the time, and then pushing people to do their reflections and take control of the process, essentially. So like, the program is there to guide you through the way. But if you follow the program blindly and just say what the coach does, it will not be successful. And that will be the same for any program. Mayhem, hard work pays off, training think tank, any program, even an individualized training program, coaches writing you something that they think is perfect for you. If you are blindly following something and not actually listening to what your body has to give, it's not going to be the most successful thing for you.
That's so funny because there was a time, because I also write the programming for the gym that I coach at. And Lazy Lawai, what's up? And at the beginning, I didn't know what weights to give the population because they're not CrossFit athletes. and they're not trying to pursue any high level performance in competitive exercise. They just want to get a good workout in. But, we're having people who've never worked out in a class setting before. We have people who have come from a HIIT class where they think that the end of the class, they should be on the floor rolling around. And I wasn't really sure what to do with that. So my first attempt was nothing at all. No guidelines. Just these are the exercises. These are the reps. Just see what you can do. With zero guidance, it was like random results. Yeah. Then I was giving some guidance of, all right, let's do 3 levels. I think the beginner weights and beginner volume, beginner intensity. Then there's baseline, which is like your regular, and then badass, because like alliteration, BBB, like it makes sense. And then there was weights for those, and then it became like people chasing like, all right, which one should I go to? Like where's my value in this team, in this community, or in my exercise based on those 3 levels? And then at the end, I kind of do what you do, is basically give a reps in reserve for most strength exercises, or a percentage of efforts, or RPE for a conditioning exercise. And being able to say something like, if I asked you to do another round, you could do it on the spot right now. Yeah. Those kinds of indicators to build that self-awareness. Yeah. And I think that's where like that sweet spot is for everyone, knowing what else they have going on in their lives. Because we're talking about full-on professionals, parents, people who cannot devote 100% to training, or if they do, it comes at a cost.
Yes. Yeah, then the key is being able to put into words, because that's how most programs are delivered. You're just reading words on a page, to put into words what the thing should feel like. So the thing could be a conditioning session, it can be a strength piece, whatever it is. It can be strength within a conditioning piece. Yeah. But it's like, okay, in terms of your load selection, it should feel like this. Yeah. Reps in reserve are obviously fantastic, but you need to be a bit more of an experienced athlete to understand how many reps you have in reserve. There's 1,000 ways to do it, but I think the more clear you can be and give intentions, like intentions are so important. We talk about it all the time, right? If you can give a clear intention as to what this should feel like, then you give people the power to choose what they think is appropriate. And as long as we're getting the same dose response, it's still effective training.
Plus, then they start building, I guess what they call it, like in OPEX, is autonomy. Right?
Yeah, and that's what it's all about.
You want them to be able to figure this out. Like, you don't want them to be dependent on you forever. If they want to stick around because they like you and they like the community, great. But if they feel like they're dependent upon you from now till forever, then there's something wrong in the relationship there. Yeah. They should be able to walk away from this.
And I'd also add to that is that people won't stay with the program. This sounds counterintuitive, right? But people won't stay with the program because they're 100% dependent on it. They will realize at some point, I think, that, well, number one, that there are other things that people value in programs, right? If the only thing is keeping you staying with someone or a training program or a coach is that they have to tell you what to do, and if they're not there, you can't do it. Yeah. I mean, that's important for some people, but I think things like community, belonging, feeling loved, feeling heard, contributing to something greater than yourself, I think all those things are maybe even more important in the long run. Yeah. So yeah, that's just another thing to add on top of the concept of autonomy. It's like if a lot of people are scared of the concept of giving autonomy to their clients because they feel that, if I give this person the power to do fitness and health by themselves, they're not going to need me anymore. Yeah. But you can still be providing things outside of that. Right. Like accountability, like a friendship, like just having a set of eyes, like you said, like being a part of something bigger. Yeah. Doing something with other people who are doing the same thing and who are like-minded. Yeah. Those things are all massively important as well.
And that keeps your focus on the task at hand. Yeah. And also it does give tack-on effects on the things in your life. Like, all right, if this is how I approach, if this is the discipline that I have in my training, why can't I do that when I'm, I don't know, doing my 9 to 5? Yeah. Right. It's like, why can't I replicate this type of discipline? And there really isn't anything stopping me from that other than bad habits on that aspect of my life. So let's reprogram that. Yes. So it's a good reminder every day of like, okay, if I can be systematic with this hour and a half in the day, let's try doing that somewhere else. Yeah.
Can I ask you, since 2020 when you joined the process, and I guess, you've been talking about what you observed when you joined us. What has changed in your, maybe you as a person, like what knock-on effects has being a part of the process had in you as a person, but also like the athlete side of you as well?
So when I started in 2020, I guess technically that was the first year that I was a master's athlete in the world of CrossFit. Like, I guess that technically means I'm old as shit in the CrossFit world.
Nothing wrong with that, buddy.
Hey, it's okay.
Master.
You've joined us.
I have joined.
That's right. You can hear it in the names.
We're also not really masters. Let's be honest. 35 to 40 I feel like is not really a master.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take it.
It's a young man.
Because it means less pistols and lighter loads.
Well, we'll see about
Hopefully.
that. But there's that aspect of me getting older. My recoverability, I can feel it. Like, if I'm going to hit it hard today, especially with deadlifts, I'll feel it for 3 days later. So there's a lot of opportunities in the training where I need to know if I go harder than I should based on what else I got going on in my life, then it's going to affect those parts of my life. So I want to be able to not impact negatively those aspects of my life. But then at the other part, it's like, I get up in the morning, I coach. After I coach, I train. After I train, I take my kids to school. After I take my kids to school, I have my office job. And then during lunch break, I'll do some programming. And then I go back to my job until 6 o'clock, get on the subway, do comments on my PT athletes, and then have dinner, bath time, and just try to wrap things up in the day. So it's like I have all these things stacked up that I don't have too much opportunity to kind of screw things up. I can stray a little bit here and there. There's a little bit of padding in terms of time and routine. But for the most part, every day has to be pretty tight. So that's where I'm at right now. And I think that's where I'm trying to come from with, if I can be disciplined with my 90 minutes of training, or even in the morning, it's more like 45 minutes because I got to take my kids to school. Let's try doing that in other places. My kid's nighttime routine, for example. Let's make that tighter.
So how did being a part of the process, what changed? Like, did being a part of the process facilitate that? Did being a part of the process make you come to that realization?
Yeah. I mean, we do have, for example, those pre-session questions. And I was more disciplined about it in the beginning, but now it's more like I'm approaching the training with those questions in mind already. So nice. I feel like I'm mentally doing it at least.
Well, just to interrupt you there,
yeah.
Those things aren't designed to be used forever. It's kind of like your training wheels to make you start thinking about that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then it should be something, I feel like I'm at the point where I naturally do it anyway. I kind of skim through those questions there or thereabouts, and I kind of come up with this number or this answer, which is like, how am I really feeling today? Yeah. And what do I actually want to give my body?
Right. So that's where my frame of mind is right now, is with the training that we have, knowing Monday, Wednesday are going to be some lifts and some conditioning. Friday usually being a slower lifting day, Thursday being a recovery day, Tuesday being our aerobic day, Saturday being our challenge day. Having that set structure really helps me to get everything else in order. And alongside of that, because things are not on percentages, but more along the lines of what feels good for you intuitively, the idea of trusting that and knowing that I can still make progress, even if I'm not hitting 100% every day, but only giving what I can give. And if I overcook that, what are the consequences of that? And being honest with it, because I'm tracking it in my notes and having conversations with you and talking to other people. I have pretty good connections with guys on the team who I have good banter with. And just going back to the vulnerability of it is like, we are not machines, and we are not, godlike athletes. I mean, we all wish we could be, but I think most days there's something going on that's keeping us from doing 100% in that gym environment. So just be kind to yourself, I guess. That's the big thing.
Yeah, I think going back to what have we done to try and foster a community of people who think like that is number one, we need to lead by example.
Yeah.
So I hope when people read my notes when I put my workouts in, that they can see the amount of self-regulation that goes into my training.
Can I ask you about your notes real quick?
Yeah, of course.
You do a lot of exclamation points.
Do I?
You do.
I think give me an example.
Felt great today.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If I do actually say that all the time. Felt great today. So, I think that's worthy of an exclamation mark.
All right.
Because it's I feel fucking great today. I want people to know. Give me another example.
Now you're putting me on the spot. I don't know.
Yeah. When I actually leave notes, I am also thinking about my community reading my notes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to be deliberate. I want to be even more open
Yeah.
than I probably would be
Yeah.
if I was making notes for myself to
Yeah.
reflect on. Does that make sense?
I think you have mentioned it before in like another podcast, is like you are pretty open now than you were before. And you're not afraid of going there at any time, because it's just like you just want to share where you're at in your life.
Well, I just think there's so many people in CrossFit still have this mentality that's shameful to take it easy.
Mm.
It's like, I still think people in CrossFit still think that burnout and pain are a badge of honor, and they're proud of it, and that taking it easy is a sign of weakness. And in CrossFit, we don't show weakness, which I think is ridiculous.
Well, it's hard because when you're, especially in a group environment, like I mostly train alone just because of the situation that I'm in.
Yeah.
But anytime I'm training, like if I'm in a class or if I'm downstairs, training with people I haven't trained with before, and I'm wondering, oh, this is going to be fun, then you just have this natural tendency to like just go for it. Even though in the back of your head, probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
But you just get so amped.
Yeah, I talked about this quite a lot in the athlete camp, and this is where like self-discipline and creating intentions and sharing those intentions are super important, because that's a beautiful thing about being in a group, is that it's like the energy of the environment can allow you to do things that you probably can't do by yourself.
Yeah.
And for someone like you, okay, like sleep has not been optimal, recovery has not been optimal, but at the same time, you're not going to get this opportunity to train on a floor with 5 or 6 other people who are good. Like, use it. So maybe today's a day that you put yourself in the hole a little bit, because you know that you're not going to have that opportunity again.
Yeah.
And so, when you have clarity on that being your intention, and you can ask yourself that question before you start the session, then totally makes sense for me to go hard today. And you're not going to feel guilty or upset on yourself for doing it.
Yeah.
It's when you don't have that clear intention, and then you get pulled into what's happening around us, because that's just the world we live in, isn't it? Like Instagram, advertising, television. It's all telling you to do more or be more, or what you are is not enough.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly being pulled in every direction to do what we think the world tells us that we should be doing.
Yeah.
And it's no different in a CrossFit gym, or it's no different in a group class.
Yeah.
So, one thing I say is that you need to have your intention for the training session for the day. And if you're in a group class, I think it's important you share that intention. Like share it with your training partner, share it with the coach.
Yeah.
Because when you don't share it and you keep that intention to yourself, that's when, you're rowing at 50% and coach comes and screams in your face and says, what are you doing, Chris? Like, pick it up.
Yeah. Quit sandbagging.
Yeah. And you just hadn't told the coach that you had a bad sleep last night in a stressful week of work.
Yeah.
And therefore your coach is now no longer supporting you on your intention for the day. So I think we have a responsibility to let people in.
Yeah.
And so, I think in the group environment, like, have your intentions, share those intentions with everyone. And, your good training partners and good friends are going to want nothing but the best for you.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And if that's what you need in the moment, then they're not going to pressure you. We often get pressured and bullied into doing things we don't want to do because they don't understand where you're currently at, right? Or that intention for the day.
Right.
So I totally agree, though. It's like, I still get pulled out all the time, even when I have good intentions. And I tell my team, which I basically do every day, I'm going to be taking it easy today.
Yeah.
And someone challenges me to do something, like my competitive nature in me is like, I'm going to fucking do it. I'm going to go against my intentions right now, and I'm going to try it. I mean, sometimes I regret it. Sometimes I don't.
That's kind of where we're at anyway. Like if we're going to compete in the open and we want to have a good season, it's because we want to show up in that sense, right?
Yeah.
We want to push that extra mile for this short season of CrossFit, and have a good space on the leaderboard. Not even necessarily that. Being able to PR on something that you've been stuck with, and get that extra push from the people in the group. So it's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah, just for me, it's like, I honestly know I'm never going to PR in training anymore. Like, I'm not going to.
100%?
Yep. Because, throwing all my resources into a 1 rep max, given what else I have in that day to do, which is my job and my life and my other priorities, it's just not worth it. So I'm not willing to do it. Whereas in a competition, that the only thing that's important to me on that day or that week or however long the competition is the competition. That's why I would have signed up for it. I would have signed up for a competition, put myself in the arena because I'm like, this is the most important thing to me right now, which means that like there's going to be minimal work to do outside of that, which means like I'm willing to pour more resources into doing the thing in that moment, which is basically why I compete. It's because I know I never know what I'm truly capable of if I use my training performances to dictate my fitness.
Mm-hmm. I wonder though, is like, does that build a lot of that expectation on that competition day? And is that how it should be, right? Like,
well, I think the negative impact of that is that I actually genuinely go into competition. I don't know what I'm capable of.
Okay.
Because I'm undercooking it all the time.
Yeah.
Like genuinely 99% of the time. Like I have not been on my back in a workout since the quarterfinals last year. And even then I wasn't on my back for any workouts. Probably been 2 years since I've been on my back after a workout.
Okay.
Whereas 2013, 14, 15, 16 CrossFit, I was on my back at least once a week.
Yeah.
And so when you go into a competition season, A, you're a lot less healthy because you fucked yourself up so much.
Yeah.
But B,
Yeah.
you have a much clearer idea of where your threshold sits within whatever the workout is.
Right.
Now, when I come into competitions, I genuinely don't know.
Yeah.
And I'll probably finish most CrossFit Open and quarterfinal workouts at probably about 90%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, we're supposed to be ramping up in that intensity. So that way, once we get to the Open and then a few weeks later in the quarterfinals,
Yeah.
we've already prepared for it.
Yeah.
Right.
And so the other disadvantage of it is that the added intensity that I put into a performance in the CrossFit Open or the quarterfinals, my body has not been accustomed to.
Yeah.
So it wrecks me even more. Now, had I prepared with that intensity leading up to the comp, then I probably wouldn't be so broken by it.
Yeah.
But then, I have to look at, well, why don't I do that in my training? Because, I reflected on last year, the quarterfinals broke me for like 2 months.
Yeah.
I genuinely 2 months till I was healthy again. And I was like, well, I know why I'm broken because I didn't do any double days. Didn't do any multiple sessions a day leading up to it. COVID and the pandemic was really stressful. So most of my time and energy was going into keeping this place alive and, keeping my team alive. And so that meant that I didn't have anything left to give to my training. So training was kind of like maintenance mode. I always trained, probably got 4 to 5 sessions in a week, followed the program, but like was like pushing it. Yeah. And so when I did decide to push it in the quarterfinals, like my body just hadn't been exposed to that intensity. Yeah. So then, this year coming into it was like, okay, let's not allow that to happen again. But
that's the thing.
At the same time, it's like, I need to look at my life leading into the Open and the quarterfinals. It's like January is super busy. Just been on the road for 3 weeks with affiliates and athlete camps and educating people. And then the Open starts, and that's like a crazy time for us. We've got the Open Throwdown. We're doing update shows. We're doing coaches workout breakdowns every Friday. So that the Open schedule is mayhem, and plus all the athletes that we have who are competing. Yeah. And that's actually what my main job is to look after the people that we serve on the process and individual clients. And so that really leaves very little for me, and that's a choice. I've made those decisions to prioritize those other things. Yeah. Which means that I've also made the choice to not prioritize going really hard. Yeah. And that's okay. And now that I've had that reflection, I'm actually okay to go into the season knowing that I'm probably going to be a little bit underprepared and that the ramifications of the aftermath of the season is probably going to be pretty shit again.
So that's the part that I think is been the most important aspect in my training the last few years is knowing, all right, I'll do the best I can in the quarterfinals or in the Open or whatever. But then I can't just stow it away and then just keep training. I need to take a look at, all right, how did I do? What were my expectations? And what am I learning from this to apply to next year, right? Because everything's going to change, but the Open itself and the quarterfinals, those intensities are always going to be there if I choose to work up to those intensities. So being able to note down my performances and be able to reflect first objectively with the numbers and the pacing and the strategies and whatever, and then subjectively of like, all right, how did I feel doing that? How much do I value myself as a person based on my performance? And what does that say about me and my relationship with exercise? And being able just to compartmentalize and take a real honest look at, number one, this upcoming season, what I want to do, what do I want to achieve, and also being able to understand that I'm not a professional. I have so many other things that are important to me that I just need to leave it where it is. It's where I think the last 2 years I've really stuck to Saturdays, one and done. Doesn't matter how good or how shitty my performance was on that Open workout. I'm not going to do it again. Because
you don't want to take away from other aspects of your life because of the recovery that would be required.
There's that, and there's also the obsession of it. Yeah. Right? It's it's that weekend warrior mentality that I don't think is healthy for me. Is like, why am I digging myself, into the ground, doing the same workout 3 times to get 3 or 4 extra reps, right? And will I feel better about myself because I got those 3 or 4 extra reps, and at what cost? So
it kind of does come back to the cost again, though. Like the cost of doing it 3 to 4 times.
Yeah, I mean that's where I'm at right now. Is that I don't think I have a lot of wiggle room with all the things that I do, to be able to, like, put my body through the ringer like that.
Yeah. So what were your reflections from last year?
Last year I qualified for the Masters 35 to 39 quarterfinals, but I chose to do the regular quarterfinals.
That's right.
Because it was 2 weeks later, and there were people in the city who were doing it too, and like, you know what? The year before that, I qualified for the Masters, and I did that. But then when I saw other people doing the regular quarters, I felt like I could have done that. Like I can show up and do that workout, so I'm better than being a Masters athlete.
I don't feel that at all, by the way. I literally cannot wait to not do the normal quarterfinal workouts and do the Masters qualifiers.
Yeah. Genuinely. I mean, that's where I'm at right now. Yeah. It's like last year I did it. I was like, that was so stupid. I mean, I think the workouts themselves.
I remember talking to you about it.
Yeah. One by one, it was fun. But like by the 3rd day, it was like, what am I doing? I'm definitely not qualifying for the semis, and I'm doing most of this stuff by myself. I don't think I'm having that much fun doing it. There's some fun there, of course, but it's like, how does this add value to my life? So looking to the Masters quarterfinals, if I choose to do it, I want to make sure that I'm doing it, and there is a priority of having a great time doing it and learning about myself. So those would be the expectations of, all right, like, what are the challenges going to be? How am I going to approach it? And just like any other challenge in life, how am I going to strategize for it, and what's my execution going to be like? And then afterwards reflect on how I did versus what I was expecting and what I prepared for. Did I do everything that was necessary, or did I pull back, or were there other things distracting me? That way I just understand like where I'm at in this season of life.
So does your placing have any bearing on whether it was a successful season or not? Be honest.
I guess not. I mean, I want to qualify for the Masters quarterfinals.
You should come to Hong Kong and do it, by the way.
I think that might be one of my motivators.
You should.
Yeah.
We really want to open up the coastal for anyone in the process who qualifies to quarters or Masters quarterfinals to come and do it here.
Hell yeah. And after doing a workout downstairs, 100%.
Yeah.
I'd like to do the Masters quarterfinals for the prospect of doing it with other people, but also just knowing that then I did the Open to the best of my abilities, which I think at the moment, I think I could qualify for the Masters quarters.
So when you say to the best of your abilities, is that the best of your abilities with a one and done?
Yes.
Okay, because the best of your abilities would technically be doing it multiple times, because you know that you could improve a strategy and execution and give you a better score.
Yeah, but like I try to approach it like any other sport where it's not like you get to do a redo of a game, right? It's like you show up and that's game day and you do the thing. I hate that whole feeling of you're like 3 minutes into a workout and think, oh shit, I shouldn't have broken. Well, I guess I'm gonna do it again, and then I'm just gonna sandbag it for the rest of this 15 minutes. Like that's
interesting. I never felt that before.
Oh well, if you're the mentality when I was in the mentality of possibly doing a workout again, it was just kind of a miserable experience that first time around.
Yeah, 2015 was the last year I redid an open workout.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And then was it then after that you're like never again, or was it just you just naturally felt like you did your best the first time around every time?
Well, it was, I think, kind of similar to you. It was like I wanted to challenge myself to be able to nail workouts once, because I was so nerdy with strategies that I would, do a workout once, watch my video, and I would write down every single split, every single second. So it's like round splits, but it's also how long it would take me to complete a set of 3. So that's cadence and tempo. I'd record every single break every time a barbell would go down or whatever movement I was breaking. And it'd basically be like this spreadsheet of numbers. And I would just redistribute the numbers so that my pace per round would stay consistent. and I would literally just basically go back in, teach someone how to time me on each movement, and just be like, hit these times, and I know I'll beat my score by 25 reps.
Yeah.
And that's and I thought that was really cool, and it was fun it was like a new dimension to the sport,
sure.
where it was like I can literally just game this thing.
Yeah.
But then I was like, this doesn't serve me if I wanted to do like an in-person competition. If someone was to come in and say like, this is a workout now, what are you going to do about it? Now, it did actually serve me because it taught me a lot about pacing and consistency and how to execute a good race, essentially. But then I got to a point, there's two parts to it. Number one was that I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to be more intuitive. So see a workout, think about the workout, build a strategy, and just go try it. So that was number one, was can I actually do that? Number two, actually there's more than two. Number two was like the cost in terms of recovery of doing more than one workout. Just like it took away from my week, and like work was getting busier and busier and busier. Work was becoming more and more important to me. Being an athlete was becoming less and less important to me.
Yeah.
That I was like, it's just not worth it. I want to get back to training. I enjoy training just as much as I do competing. I want to come in on Monday and actually have a good training session. Yeah. And like, I know like the anxiety and the mental trauma of a redo is like brutal, as well as the physical stress. Yeah. And then the other one was, you know, back then it was like my scores were contributing to my team to go to regionals. And because we always had a pretty good team. Yeah. I knew that my score would probably be the first or second best for the men, unless strict handstand push-ups came up. Yeah. And so it was just do enough. Okay. Do enough to make sure that we're qualifying to the next stage. Okay. And so often that, as long as I didn't completely butcher it, it was always good enough. Yeah.
Can I ask you about just all those things in general?
Yeah, of course.
When you do any training session or when you do an open workout, right now, what is your priority? Like, is it to show up for your community? Is it to have fun? Is it to show up on a certain percentage on the leaderboard? What is the most important thing to you right now?
Nice. Leaderboard has genuinely nothing to do with it. Couldn't care where I finished on the leaderboard.
Nice.
And I can honestly say that with my hand on my heart. I think that a couple of years I would say that, but not truly believe it. I would say it because it was like what I was preaching to people to not do, but I still had an ego attached to where I would finish on leaderboard, and think that my validity as a coach was based on how well I would perform the open, which has got nothing to do with it at all.
Yeah, that's hard. It's kind of hard to hear.
Yeah. No, I think every single coach feels it, right? Especially like you're ahead of the gym. Like you need to be up there on the leaderboard, especially like, you know, back in the day, you know, I'd be top 10, top 40s in Asia. Yeah. It's like, you can't be lower than that. You can't be on the second page, but genuinely there's nothing of that.
Also, like 2 weeks after that, ask someone what your placement was. They don't know.
No one gives a shit. Everyone's worried about themselves. Yeah. No one cares about you, in all honesty. So yeah, that really doesn't have any bearing on it whatsoever. It's really just about like being proud of my effort. And not just effort, it's like, it's the strategy as well. Execution. Were my reps clean? Did I prepare well going into it? Was my sleep good? Did I manage nutrition well? Did I recover hard after? Like I look at it as like the whole package. Yeah. And basically like my ability to perform, like my mental state. Yeah. Like what was my self-talk? Yeah. Going into workout, during the workout. And it's kind of like more than going into it with an expectation of an outcome, going into it with like an opportunity for learning. And that's what I love that. Yeah. Like, I mean, every single day in my life, there's opportunities for learning. And this is like a unique one because it's like sport and physical and mental based. And so I just see it as another one of those. So yeah, I love like practicing the stuff I preach to my people all year round. And I'm like, this is my opportunity now to practice with myself and to see if I can do it and to see what challenges come out from this. And I know whether I execute it or I don't, that's going to level me up as an athlete, but it's also going to level me up as a coach. Right. So that's cool. I have this kind of like motivation in the back being like, you're going to be a better coach because you're putting yourself in here and doing what your athletes do as well. Yeah, that's it. Honestly, I don't go into workouts and expectations on scores. I don't care who I beat. I definitely still feel there is this little ego in me that says, and people will often chalk this up to like, I'm a competitive person, but it's actually not. There's an ego under me in there somewhere that doesn't want to lose to certain people in my gym. Yeah. Like I say it to the guys, like I give my team shit all the time about beating them in workouts and them beating me in workouts, but there is genuinely a part of me that doesn't want to lose to them.
Names.
I know Karan 100%. Although Karan will only ever beat me if there's pistols and lots of straight handstand push-ups,
Let's see it.
which could happen
Yeah.
very much. I'm very aware. I tell Karan all the time, there are quite a few workouts, Karan, that you would actually beat me in.
Yeah.
Honestly, just anyone with a team other than Ant, he doesn't count, and Alex, but I just want to beat Alex in one workout every year and then basically hold him to that loss for the next 12 months, which is exactly what I do all the time. But I obviously, you know, why do I not want to lose those people? Because I'm probably holding some weight to the fact that if they beat me, that makes them more worthy as a coach, which is silly. And I recognize that.
Wow.
So there's more digging that needs to be done there.
That's so interesting.
But at the same time, like if they did beat me, I really wouldn't care.
Yeah.
I'd probably be butthurt for a few minutes and then just catch myself being silly and be like, that's not actually that important.
Yeah.
But there is definitely that thing inside me.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, like I'm the same as you. I would love to go to qualify to quarterfinals.
Yeah.
I definitely think I'm good enough.
Yeah.
I love competing, and part of what I love about competing is everything I've talked about already, which is like I know that in training for me, I never push hard, so I never really know hard enough to know what I'm truly capable of.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my opportunity, and for the last 3 years, it's just been the Open. But going forward, I would love to do like an in-person live event at some point because I do really love it.
Same.
So number one, it's just knowing that I have this unique opportunity to learn what I'm truly capable of. And I know that's probably where I'm going to PR. That's why, you know, if a snatch 1 rep max comes up, I know I'm never going to be at the top of the leaderboard or even close to it. But I'm always like, yes, this is my opportunity to actually test and see where I'm at. Because I'm not willing to throw myself under 100 kilograms in training, but I'm willing to do it in a competition. You know what I mean? Clean and jerk, like 1 rep max is all the stuff I don't like. When they get programmed in a comp, I'm like, this is good for me because I get to actually test. It's like a long endurance piece is probably something I feel quite comfortable with, and I'm happy to do that stuff in training.
It's all a stage, right?
Yeah.
And we want to come to play.
Yeah. I love, you know, like, I don't like the term shared suffering. I don't know why I don't like it because it's not really about suffering, but doing something hard in a group.
Yeah.
And like having that collective experience together. So like doing the CrossFit Open for years, I just did it on a Saturday with the community. Yeah. Because I was like, before that, it was like do it by myself, go head to head with Ant. And then I realized like that's not really why I'm doing this thing. I want to be a part of the community. I want to judge other people. I want people to judge me, have fun in the group. Now the coaches do it on a Friday and it's fun doing it with other people. Like, I don't really want to do an open workout by myself. It doesn't really interest me anymore.
I do enjoy that part about shooting the shit with people when I drop into a gym. Yeah. Because the Open's coming up, and I was asking them like if they're going to do it, and then we just talk about open workouts in the past and how we did, and like that sucked, or like I didn't know I could have done this, or I definitely couldn't do this.
Yeah, you got that common ground with someone, right? And it's nice you can talk about it.
Yeah, and I think that's that really is what I love about dropping into any other gym. It's like I also dropped into a Globo gym, and that wasn't the same experience. Yeah, because everyone's doing their own thing, and it doesn't seem like you can talk that much. I mean, maybe you can.
You still can, for sure, yeah.
But you just don't feel... you do feel that invisible barrier more so than in a CrossFit gym.
Yeah, I agree.
So that is nice. I really like that.
Yeah.
And I think that goes to my priority is like, I just want to have fun. And I want people to know I'm actually having fun. And that's why...
But do you, when you're like dying in a workout, are you thinking about fun?
So like a good example of that would be last year when we were doing the wall walks and snatches and box jump movers, where the first 75% of it was like smooth and like good transitions. Last 25% was just hell, and you're just hanging on, and like I'm rolling on the floor, and like it looks bad, but I'm trying to look as I'm trying to work as cleanly as possible, because once you start doing these weird inefficient movements and compensations, then you're just wasting energy. Yeah. So that last 25% is terrible. It's the suck. But the rest of the time I just love the environment of just, I want this to be what training should be, and training should be fun. And it should be a good time. You should walk away from it. Number one, you should walk away from it, right? Number two, you should feel like it added value to your day, and that as an athlete and as a coach, that's like my 100% priority. It's like cracking jokes with people on the squat rack, doing just the weirdest stretches in the beginning of end of class where we're just, saying the most inappropriate things. Cause like we're the 5:45 a.m. class and we have a certain sense of humor and connecting with each other that way. And then just like being able to connect about like, well, that sucks, or like that was really fun, or that was what it was, and we're sharing that experience together, whether you're in the early class, the middle afternoon class, or the evening class, and then doing that as well with my personal training clients, where when I program something for them, I do have an experience of what that was like for me, and then we get to talk about it later.
Yeah.
And it's cool. I mean, I think exercise and training, if it's personal training or team training, whatever the size is, it's just this really rich like mine of connection because you're having fun together. You're doing all these things with loud music. You are showing the best and worst of yourself, and it's all good. And yeah, that's like the best part of not just the Open, just training in general.
Yeah. I think it's like this feeling that you're collectively working towards the same thing.
Right. And I think that's what, instead of saying that shared suffering, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's like we're all in this together. I was thinking of High School Musical, but that's what it is. Yeah.
No, I feel you. I always say one other thing that I think about is, and this is not just with competing, but this is just with life and doing hard things, is, like something like the CrossFit Open, like there's many times where I'll be 5 minutes before a workout getting fucking fired up and being like, why the fuck am I doing this? Yeah. I also have that question, which is like, you didn't need this discomfort in your life.
Right.
This is unnecessary. Like it'd be way easier if you just sat having a coffee and a bagel right now.
Yeah, my family tells me that.
Yeah. But then it's about recognizing that all your growth comes from hardship.
Yeah.
And I know that, past experience has told me is every time I've done something hard, something has come from it. A lesson, an epiphany, growth.
Yeah.
And so, even like athlete camps, like they're hard things to put on. Like it's a huge event. It's 2 days. There's a lot of prep that has to go into it, a lot of organization that starts 4 or 5 months in advance. You're coming into the week and you're not sleeping. Yeah. And you're thinking, is this really worth it? Like, did I have to do this athlete camp? Life was pretty good without it. Yeah. And then the moment 3, 2, 1, it started, I was like, this is awesome. Yeah. 100%. This is why I need to do this kind of stuff, because like there is so many amazing things that have come in the wake of running these athlete camps. And I'm like, it's always worthwhile doing the hard shit. Maybe you got to spread my hard shit out a little bit more and not do them all consecutively.
Well, and it's also like there's hard shit in everything, right? Like, I don't know. When's the last time you learned a difficult song on guitar, right?
I feel like every song's very difficult for me at the moment on guitar.
Yeah. Your last.
But that's why.
Yeah, and then you're in the middle of it. Like my fingers hurt, and I can't get this chord right. This is a weird looking chord. My fingers aren't in the right place. Yeah. I keep forgetting this progression in this part of the song. This is dumb. I sound terrible. It sounds nothing like what the CD sounds like. CD, the MP3.
CD. What's that?
The cassette. But when once you've accomplished it, like it's the same feeling as with training. Like anything that's difficult, anything that's challenging, anything that takes work to get done is worth doing.
Yes.
And it just adds so much to what you're capable of and just that feeling of like, I don't know what it is, purpose or value, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. I think accomplishment as well.
Yeah.
And all the feel good hormones that come from achieving something. Yeah. That's why we love checklists and to-do lists. But yeah, feeling like we're doing something to level ourselves up is
100%
nice.
Yeah.
Well, this podcast was supposed to be all about your life story. We haven't talked about that at all, but that's all good. I've actually loved going down the rabbit hole of talking about training.
Did you want to ask me something about myself?
One thing I actually am really interested in you, you kind of just alluded to what your day looks like, is that you're a man who wears many hats. Yeah. You're a dad, you've got 2 daughters, you're a husband, you have a full-time job, you coach in the morning. Yeah. You train, obviously. How do you squeeze all that shit in? And why do you do it all? Oh, and also another thing, sorry, that I didn't know before this podcast when we were just chatting, you said that you had a go at stand-up comedy before as well. And that was something else that you were trying to squeeze into your day. So and sorry, I haven't finished my question yet. there's questions coming to my head as I'm asking the question. But, what I see, so Instagram, one thing, but what I see, as your coach who's watching your progress in training is that I've seen so much progress in 2 years. Like there's a lot of
That's nice to hear.
no
Thank
crazy
you.
amount. And then what I always find interesting is like you came from a weightlifting background,
Mhm.
and then you moved into CrossFit, and all your weightlifting numbers are continuing to go up.
That was pretty.
Yeah,
cool to
and
see.
your strength numbers are going up. I mean, you're 37 as well. It's not like you've just started fitness for the first time.
Yeah.
You're lifting good numbers, especially for someone of your weight.
Yeah.
So being able to see progress and consistency, like
Mm.
you had a little shoulder tweak, I remember last year.
Yeah.
And other than that though, you like seem to be thriving.
Mhm.
But then seeing everything else that you're doing,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to know how you balance it all.
It's a question that people ask me often is like, how do you find the time to do it?
Yeah.
And the simple answer is just like, because I want to do it. Like I don't want to say it's motivation because motivation is fickle, but I do really genuinely enjoy the things that I participate in and the communities that I can build in doing those things. So when I wake up and I coach in the morning, it's 5:45. We're all just dragging ourselves into the room.
Yep.
But we've built such a good like little community of 5:45 just people just drag their asses in and get the work done, and we are not filtered. So they show up and I'll show up for them, and then I give them energy, they give me energy. It's this awesome reciprocal thing. And then off of that, I know I got 45 minutes to do my workout, and that's important to me. I want to keep moving the needle forward, or I just want to maintain, or I just want to have a good time training because I love lifting. I love aerobic stuff. I love seeing where my limits are and being able to be smart about my training. And that's where I've grown to really enjoy, like aerobic Tuesdays, for example. And then when I take my kids to school, it's like, what's the value in that? So there's value in coaching, there's value in training. There's value in taking my kids and walking them to school. Because I used to have a scooter and I used to scoot them to school. But then like it got stolen, and then we started walking. And then I figured, oh my God, we should walk every day. So I'll walk them to school, and my younger one doesn't like to walk, and she knows that I can put her on my shoulders, so I'll put her on my shoulders while I'm holding my older kid's hand. So we drop her off, and we do a big hug and stuff. And then sometimes they don't want to hug, but whatever. And then I'll drop off the little one to kindergarten around the corner. And we get to talk sometimes in English, sometimes in Chinese. And we just get to know each other every little bit in that morning. And then I'm just amped up to go to work because I have a 45-minute commute in the subway to go to the office, and then I'll do what I can, either reading or doing comments on WADA for my athletes, or whatever it is that I need to do, or just like veg out a little bit and watch, a TV show. And then when I get to the office, I do have challenges in my responsibility now because I'm doing PR work and working with media and answering questions and getting these challenges for these projects. And sometimes it's a drag because it's a corporate gig. But I do value the connections that I have in that company and as well as the types of opportunities that are coming up that I hadn't seen before. So I have value in that. And when I go home, I get to leave my workout at the office for the most part, and then I can be home, have dinner with the kids, talk about our days, and then do bath time and, just whatever, just hang out. And those are all so many valuable things in my life that I guess I'll do whatever I need to do in order to get that done, plus have enough sleep on average.
I mean, what's nice there, it sounds like you actually see value and you love everything that you're doing.
I think so. And then I think, so like for stand-up, right? I did it for like 3 or 4 stand-up shows, and I had a good time doing it, but then it was Sunday nights, and it was pretty late, and then Monday I'd be dragging ass to the gym. So like it was cool, but then it was taking away from other things that were valuable to me, like that next morning and how that routine would be. So then it becomes, what are the things that I'd like to do but don't add that much value in my life, or take away from value in the other parts of my life that I know are priorities. So it's about taking an honest look for what's important to me and being able to keep those things firing in all cylinders for the most part. And if it's not a great day for some of those things, just seeing where the problem was. Like, did I not get enough sleep? Is my mind elsewhere? Am I on my phone too much? This, that, or the other.
Can I ask, so your full-time job, you said there's parts of it that you love. It sounds like there's parts of it that you maybe don't love as much.
Of course.
Has transitioning into full-time coaching been something on your radar that you thought about?
Yes. And that's the other thing. I'm in the middle of my OPEX final project, which if you are a full-time like professional, it's like very, very difficult to do those, because you're supposed to have 5 clients and then you're supposed to have them for a month to do their programming. But in reality, when you take on these clients, it's like taking on an actual client. So they're not gonna leave you after a month. So I have these clients still, so I have to figure out time to get that in order. But I think the biggest fear for me, and I think it's inspiring to hear people like Liam talk about it, is right now I'm in a comfortable job. Yeah. And comfortable is, it's like golden handcuffs, where it's like, I'm getting paid well and I'm providing for my family, and that's a responsibility that I have. But I'd love to, and I think I have a lot of potential in being a professional coach and being a full-time coach. And I love the connections that I made so far. And I love the value I've added to people's lives in doing that as far as what they're telling me. And I love the connections that I'm making. And you can see it right now in my face, like how much it amps me up to talk about this. I'm not saying I'm not amped up to talk about my professional job, but I'm always amped up to talk about coaching and the relationships and the value that I see and create and take from it. So that excites me. It's just a challenge of, well, it's not a guaranteed salary, but when I finish this project, and maybe that will be my tipping point, right? My inflection point of, I guess this is it. Like, shit or get off the pot. Like, I can stay comfortable and always wonder if I could have been a great coach or a good full-time coach or whatever you want to call it, or do I find a balance in it? And sometimes people have to do a little bit of that. Like when I went to the gyms in California, there are people who are coaching, but are also like real estate agents, for example, to balance out, or maybe they actually do love being a real estate agent as well. I don't know. Everyone has a unique story, and I don't know if my story is going full ass instead of half ass on the coaching, or if it's just part of a balanced lifestyle.
Is the thing that scares you about going all in on coaching the potential that you can't provide for your family?
100%. Because they're the most important thing in my life is, I don't want to say like I want to buy everything that my kids ask for, which, by the way, like Lily and Angie, I love that you don't ask for too many things. I really appreciate it.
Didn't realize they're listeners. Thanks, Lily and Angie.
We'll see.
Thank you.
I'm going to have them sit in front of the TV. TV, the computer, phone, whatever. And I just want to make sure that they are provided for, that they get the things that they need, and that they can go to college or whatever it is that they want to do. I just want to make sure that I can provide. And as the provider, it's hard to be like, all right, go step away from this full-time salary and benefits job and go into the big question mark of, full-time coaching. But it is inspiring to hear coaches' stories. And I've always reached out to people who are full-time coaches. I remember I even asked Karan and Lou, what was it like for them to dive off of their full-time jobs into coaching, knowing that at first it was like an unpaid internship, or it was an internship, it was unpaid. Well, so
4 months unpaid. Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, that's what we have to do, right? In this line of work. And there's value in it. And, on the other end of that, I'm hearing a lot about them being great coaches now, right? And that they are doing exactly what they were put on this earth to do. So why can't I do the same?
Why can't you do the same?
I don't know. Well, there's fear in it, of course.
What's the fear?
It's just the fear that, well, there's a fear of failure. There is a fear of, I'm going to do it and I'm not going to make any money at all. And then I have to drag my ass back into the corporate world.
Why do you think you would not make money at all? Because you don't think you'll be good? Is that a fear?
I just feel like, when a salary job, that's guaranteed. In a coaching job, the salary is not guaranteed.
On a commission-based salary?
Yeah, I guess so. Because I'm just getting paid for whatever my clients' rates are and blah, blah, blah. So that's always a thing. That's always a thing to consider. But like I talked to it with my wife before, and she fully supports me with my decision. I just need to shit or get off the pot.
It is obviously I have full respect for Andrew and Karan, so for those who are listening, there basically are two level 1 coaches who went through our apprenticeship program, which is a 4-month minimum, 4 months before your coaching group classes, and then an additional 4 months before you're doing individual coaching. So really, all in all, is about a year before they're fully fledged coaches. Both these guys left full-time jobs in the finance and government jobs.
Yeah.
And were getting great salaries.
Benefits.
Super comfortable,
Yeah.
great benefits. And they basically made the decision, and they're both kind of around mid-20s, to step away from that, for both of them as well, like support their families.
Yeah.
And pursue something they loved, which is, or they thought they would love, which is coaching, because there was no guarantee they were going to love it, right?
That's the other part.
Yeah. And what they were both part of the coastal community for X number of years, so they kind of knew, they could see what a coach was doing.
Yeah.
They knew the community. They were like valuable members of the community. So I guess that helped. Know that the place they were applying to was somewhere they'd been a part of as a member for a long time.
Absolutely.
And yeah, basically no pay for 4 months, and then started on, probably a lower end of salary, and then now, going through the journey of working their way up and growing as a coach. And with that, over time will come more financial benefits and all that kind of stuff. But I think in listening to what you're doing right now, I think you are doing it in an intelligent way, which is you have like one toe in the water at the moment and you're kind of dabbling. Right. And I've appreciated our conversations where you've asked about development, and we've had some calls about it as well. Even looking at like, getting your gym, which, you're not even an owner of. You just basically work there for free. You get paid a little bit.
I can't remember. Stipend.
Yeah. Okay. So for most people, probably not enough to do what you're doing. But I think that, it shows how much you really love it. You're willing to do all of this extra stuff on top of already a very busy life, in terms of what most people would call a busy life. Do this stuff with not much reward financially. And you're seeing if it's something you're good at and seeing something you love. And I think that's all your apprehensions and fears are totally normal. Something you've never done before. Like how do you know if you're going to be good? How do you know if you're going to love it? But you're kind of getting to experience it right now. On top of the life you live. And I think there's maybe going to be a point in time where you have enough concrete evidence to support that this would be a good move, or you have enough concrete evidence to support there won't be a good move.
And I think, this kind of inflection point, I feel like is kind of common in the last few years, with people having to, to have to walk away from their jobs or being laid off or whatever, have a different relationship with their line of work, and to see if, is this really what I want to be doing? Right? Is this the lifestyle that I want to have? Is this the professional situation that I need to have? Is this my career? So I think maybe I had that, and I've also had some family issues that's created an opportunity for me to take a look at where I am in my life and see if, is this, I don't know, the legacy or whatever you want to call it, is this a story that I want to leave behind when I go? It's like, Chris was a really good corporate node, which is, that's the most like pessimistic way to say it, of course, but at the same time, there are structures about the corporate world that I don't really like, and I think that's a statement that I think resonates with a lot of people.
Maybe you're part-time, full-time flip reverses, right? You go full-time coach and you do part-time this other stuff, and then maybe at some point you transition out of it. There was something that I was thinking about there.
But there is something about just, I guess the other fear is, if you turn your passion into a career, does that make the passion go away? And I don't know.
Maybe there are some people that it hasn't, some people that hasn't. I can speak on behalf of myself and say it hasn't.
I
remember what I was going to say now. I read it was Barack Obama's book, and then the question was like, how do you make decisions? Like, how do you make a decision like invade Iraq? Like crazy huge decisions. How do you do it? And he made a lot of good decisions, I think a lot of people would say. And for him, he said it was just always about percentages. So it's like you lay everything on the table, and if the percentages leaned even by 1%, towards this being a potentially good decision, 51-49, he would go with it.
Wow.
With no guarantee, not going in to expect that it was going to be the right move or that it was going to pay off. But if the percentages, once he'd considered all options, laid as a favorable decision, he'd go with it.
Have you tried that before?
What's that?
Have you tried that?
I think I do that subconsciously. Yeah. I'm very lucky that I found my dream job. Early.
Absolutely.
But then it also wasn't fully coincidental. I did things as a youngster that led me towards potentially being in this position that I am. I had a work experience job that we had to do when we were 14, and it was coaching kids. And I got asked after that work experience week if I would continue to coach kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. I was the only 14-year-old working and getting $100 an hour.
How young were these kids?
Like 5 to 6, 5 to 7.
And
Like,
you're
technically I was underage. I was like, I'm going to go after school
Wow.
once a week and just help these kids out.
Yeah.
So it's like already there was like something in me that was like wanting to coach and help. You know, we would go on family holidays and we would drive past a leisure and recreation center, a gym, and I'd be like, I'm going to own one of those one day.
And I think that's, I guess, what defines successful individuals is there's a lot to be said about luck, but then it's also just opportunities that are presented to you and what you do with those opportunities.
Yeah. But then also making the opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, setting up your life where the opportunities do present themselves.
Yeah.
And that like often involves risk taking and getting uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And getting turned down and people rejecting you. Like, you got to do those things.
Yeah. That might be where I'm at too a little bit.
Yeah.
But I do love every aspect of the coaching gig.
Yeah. I mean, if you were to ask me, like, Ed, do you think I have potential to be a coach? I would say 100% yes.
Okay.
You know, I think so much of being a part of a coach is being a personable person that can build relationships with people. And I think like you're one of the best in the world at doing that.
Hey. Yeah.
And that alone, you know, like you can learn, you know, you can read a textbook and understand how to write a training program. Anyone can.
Yeah.
And you know, that's for us when it comes to talent acquisition, when we're thinking about who's our next coach, it's less and less about the qualifications and the certifications and where you went to school and all that. And it's more about like, do we like this person? Like, do they align with our values and are they a people person?
Yeah.
Because this is the industry that we work in. And I think you have those things, and you've also acquired a skill set and put yourself in and done, you know, one of the most highly sought after certification programs in the CrossFit space. So like you kind of couple those two things together, then you've got something potentially really good.
Yeah.
But who am I to say that you should do it? Who am I should say that
I
you
hear
should?
what you're saying, and I appreciate everything that you're saying as well. And I value it. Now it's just a matter of me internalizing it, letting it simmer, and then figuring out what I do next.
Yeah.
With it.
You know, I think there's like, I've read lots of things of basically advice for people who are at this crossroads now.
Yeah.
Where it's basically like stepping away from the job that pays you but doesn't fulfill you, and so meets a certain criteria of your life but doesn't meet many other criteria of your life, and then like how you can transition into chasing your dream job. And like there are some, and I can't quote these, I'll definitely get them wrong, and I haven't, because I haven't been through this myself. I don't have real life experience of what it takes to go through it, and so that's something that will always make it harder for me to empathize with someone who's going through it. But like, you know, savings, like making sure you have enough in the bank. If finances are important, which they are to you, because you're thinking about your future children and their lives. Making sure you have enough in the bank. You know, you're not just walking away with nothing and then starting at nothing. That wouldn't be smart. Making a transitional period, you know, like, which I think you're doing, like you're already doing coaching on top of your full-time job. Obviously getting the support from the people around you. And I can't think of anything else, but I think those are two massive things that you're doing already. And I think you need maybe exploring like what that life as a coach might look like, because there are many more ways that a coach's life could look like than just doing personal training and receiving a commission-based salary. You know, that's how I started, but it's not how I'm paid now. And it's not how I pay junior coaches anymore, how we do it, because I think there are many good things with that, and I think there are some not so good things with that. I think there's many great things about a fixed salary and some not so great things. But I guess it's all about like, what do you want? Do you want to be Chris Tuazon, the coach, by yourself, and you know, sitting behind a computer writing programs? Is that your idea of you know, following your dreams, or do you want to be a part of a team, part of an organization, part of like contributing to a bigger collective mission? You know, having people to learn off every single day. Because I chose the route where it was just me. It was me and just me coaching people one-on-one, not really sat behind a computer. That's kind of where I evolved at some point. But now, when I think about being a digital nomad and being a coach living across the world, like doesn't interest me at all. Like so many amazing things I love about coaching is all about human connection and relationships and being in a team. And so the idea of me sat on a beautiful island by myself, don't want that.
Also, you have a home here. Like this gym is the home for that community. It
is. But even still, it's like, even if I didn't have that side of things doesn't It's not what I want.
Oh, interesting.
But that's just where I'm at now.
Yeah.
And there was a period in time where I thought that is what I want,
Mm.
and I didn't want all this.
Mm.
There was a period of time where I just wanted to be freelance, and that was fucking awesome because you had no overheads and you make loads of money.
Yeah. I'm glad we're having this conversation because
I think it's important as well because how many other people are in the shoes that you're in right now?
yeah.
You know, I'd say it's scary how many people I speak to. Sorry to cut you off, but how many people I speak to who are members of the gym
Yeah.
who have the dream of being a coach one day,
Yeah.
but also say that they're never going to achieve it
Yeah.
because of all the fears that are stopping you from doing it.
Yeah.
And they have those same fears.
Yeah.
And maybe they haven't, the percentage doesn't lean in their favor right now, and therefore they're not doing it.
Well, that's where I love hearing everyone's stories. It might not be a coach, but someone who dove into something more creative or more aligned with them personally, and what was a difference maker for them to pursue that versus not, right?
Yeah.
So that way I have a good idea of what were those defining moments or realizations
Yeah.
to make them either stay the course or to change completely. So I'm glad I get to articulate like where I'm at, and like, I think you can sense my hesitations.
For sure.
And then I hope people can reach out and be like, Chris, this is what I think.
So
that'll help me too.
So I want to share something. So I had, someone who used to work in the coaching industry,
Mm-hmm.
who stepped away from the coaching industry,
Yeah.
thinking it's not what they wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and realized straight away that they made a big mistake. They chased money and ease of life instead of fulfillment and satisfaction,
Yeah.
and they regretted it. And they stayed there for 8 years.
Yeah.
And they're now at a point where, and they have children, they have a family, where they're not willing to do that anymore, and they want to get back to doing what they love, which is coaching.
Yeah.
And so this person applied, well, not really applied, but is talking to me about whether that position might exist here.
Yeah.
And the way that we've gone about it, I said, I need you to write down every single thing that you want your life to look like.
Mm.
And so that's not just the money,
Yeah.
but it's like, if you got 2 kids, like, are you working 5 days a week? Are you working 4 days a week?
Mm.
Are you working 7 days a week? When does your day start? When does your day finish?
Right.
What are you doing every single day? Like, are you on the group coaching floor coaching people? Are you doing personal training? Or are you back office, like building a vision, building plans for the gym? Are you educating coaches? Are you educating members? Write down everything that you envision and want to be doing. And then I can just be honest and say whether or not that thing that you want aligns with me.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a business owner, I don't want to have people working here that are doing jobs they don't like
Yeah.
and doing jobs they're not good at.
Right.
Like, no one wins.
Yeah. And it just creates that resentment, right?
Well, no one wins. Like, they're upset. They don't enjoy their job. The business doesn't benefit because you're not fully utilizing the person's skill set. They probably end up being a toxic vibe in the gym, and that takes away from everyone else.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really good exercise maybe for you to do, to be honest and say, okay, you want to be coaching, but like, who are you coaching?
Yeah.
What does your coaching look like?
Yeah.
Are you behind the screen? Are you in person? Are you in a CrossFit gym? Are you in a Globo gym?
Yeah.
Are you doing classes? Are you doing one-on-ones? Are you doing private groups? What does your training methodology look like?
Yeah.
And then, if you can put down that down on paper, how much money are you bringing in a month? How much free time do you have? Do you still have time to walk your daughter to school? Or are you going to be coaching 7 a.m. classes, which means you can't do that anymore?
Yeah.
You need to write that stuff down and be super clear on what the dream is.
Yeah.
And then see if you can make that work.
Is that what you did when you started out?
No, I just fucking went into it blind and I just figured everything out on the way. But this is the advice I think I give people now who are thinking about going.
Had you have done it again?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is when people apply for jobs here, I ask them that question.
Yeah.
Be honest. Like, don't tell me what you think I want to hear,
Yeah.
or what you see Ant doing, or what you see Liam doing, or what you see Tammy doing. Like, they all have like their individual nuances to their job.
Yeah.
Like, what do you really want? And I can just be honest and tell you whether or not that's something I can give you.
Mm.
And if I can't give you that thing, then maybe here's not the place for you.
Yeah. This turned into a job interview.
But you know what I mean? That's exactly how I do it now.
It makes sense because it's like, don't try to do a square peg round hole thing. Even if you're trying to hide it, or even if you don't see that, it'll come out at some point.
Yeah.
And then it'll be kind of a waste of everybody's time.
Yep. Especially yours.
Yeah. But I guess it turned into a great learning, teachable moment. But you could have also not have gone that long to make that realization.
Yeah.
If you had just really been honest about how you see this career path and how it does or does not align with where you think you want to go.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Yeah. Can I guarantee whatever you write down in this reflection, like there will be somewhere and someone in the world or an opportunity in the career for you in the industry where you can make that happen.
Yeah.
It may not be straight away. It may be something you have to chip away at and attain over years, but like it exists, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd be doing what I do now.
Yeah.
I genuinely thought I'd just be coaching individuals, coaching groups forever. And then I'd be running this gym space.
Also, you're not, it doesn't seem like you were trying to force anything. Things just kind of just came together naturally.
Yeah, it just unraveled naturally.
Yeah.
And it was like, I think like so much change happens either via inspiration, like you see something else with someone else and you're like, I want that for myself.
Yeah.
Or life just intervenes. It's like inspiration or intervention.
Yeah.
Sometimes life just like shit just happens. Like the pandemic happened and that forced a lot of us, like where you are right now, to question what we're doing and to change things. Like there's been a lot of change in my role and our business because of the pandemic. That was an intervention. I couldn't see that. I didn't plan that to happen, right? But there's lots of inspiration where I've seen things or aspired to want to be doing certain things. Maybe I've seen it in other people and what they do for sure. Like maybe some of my mentors where I'm like, I want to be doing that too. And then I've gone out and made that happen, or I'm trying to make that happen for myself. And so, nothing has been forced. Definitely made mistakes, like, 100% have chased things that I realized in hindsight, I didn't actually want that. Yeah. I just said that I wanted that because I thought that was like the norm. And I think that's the thing with coaching. We all think that there is like this set way that a coach should progress. You start with group classes, then you start doing individual coaching, then you own a gym.
Also, there's like the other things like, as a coach, you kind of expect yourself to be able to perform a certain way and to have a certain aesthetic too. Like
for sure.
I think a lot of career paths have those types of assumed like indicators of success.
Yes.
Which we can always fall into as a trap.
For sure. Especially coaches. Because like we're in the industry of aesthetics. Yeah. Whether we believe it or not. Yeah. And Instagram is built all around aesthetics. Yeah. Social media is all around aesthetics. Yeah. You can't see a doctor unless he's got a white cloak on or she has and know that that's a doctor. But you can look at someone and think, they look like they're in the fitness industry. So that just adds to the pressure that we have to look a certain way to be a certain thing. And I don't know, my take on that is that I don't think you need to be an amazing athlete to be an amazing coach. But I think if you want to be able to empathize with the people you serve, then you need to have walked the life that they're walking.
I always felt like the best coaches are like the middle of the pack athletes. Yeah. Because the athletes with the God-given talents never had to learn how to do a certain thing.
Yeah. Right? They didn't have the struggle.
So if you're in the middle of the pack and you have to figure out, every little piece of, for example, a snatch, then you going through that struggle for years and years to be able to get to a great point, now you have the tools of the trade to be able to replicate that in some form or fashion to the people that you're coaching.
I agree. But I mean, it's like we can all serve, just like I believe that there is someone for everyone. It's like that talented athlete who didn't have to work for it. His or her story might really resonate with another talented athlete who doesn't have to work with it. Yeah. But I totally agree with that thing. Yeah. I think back a lot on like all the injuries and the ailments I had through sport and how that hypothetically stopped me achieving full athletic potential. But at the same time, I'm like, but look what else it opened up for me. Yeah. It gave me a head start on like rehabilitation. Running a business at a young age gave me a head start on like stress management. Yeah. Like there's like, I can
that's
pull
your
it all
unique
back.
value to what you bring. Right. And that's those are all parts of who you are. I think that's where the real value is in coaching, is being able to bring your actual value based on your own experiences rather than making up certain qualifications or giving people what you think the expected qualifications are. Yes. Right? Yeah. I think an example that comes to mind is Tanner Shook. I love his Instagram account because he's just very direct. And one of his certifications, he's like CGP, a certified good person, meaning that like one of the most things that's most important to him as a coach is be able to connect with people and just to be able to listen and to give them what they need based on what he's seeing, and having that just personalized attention. And it doesn't matter what certifications he has or has not. it doesn't matter, because what really matters in that relationship is, are you attuned to what your athlete is giving and what they need based on what you're seeing, right? And those are things, like you said back in the beginning of this conversation, is you can't teach some of those things. You know, certifications can only do so much. You have to have that experience, and you have to have those people skills, or whatever you want to call it, to be able to really connect with the person that's trying to improve themselves in one way or another and are coming to you with that ask.
Yes. Chris, I think we're going to end it on that.
Yeah.
This has been a really enjoyable conversation. It's super cool to hear kind of where you're at in your life right now.
Yeah. Well, just the thinking out loud process is.
Yeah. And I really appreciate you sharing openly and honestly on this platform. I think you've always been a really open and honest person. I think I had many great conversations over the years with you. It's nice to have it in person now.
Cool.
And I know our community really appreciates it as well. You know, that you are always one of the first people to put out your thoughts and your struggles and your sharings and social media. And again, going back to what we talked about earlier, even if you're not getting a response from it, like there are many people watching.
Yeah.
Even just saying today that you're going to be on this podcast, like everyone knew who you were. Like everyone, which is awesome.
Well, it's been great. And I really just appreciate what you and the team have been able to put together. And I'm so happy that I'm part of it in some form or fashion. And it's a great community, and it's given me like the inspiration to be able to have that aspect of that or whatever in my own communities, whether it's in my gym community, in my work community. It's great. I mean, there's all these universal values that work regardless of the context.
And that's what's so cool. It's like the ripple effect, isn't it? It's like this community impacts you impact your community.
Yeah.
Your community impacts their community.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's what's so cool about what we do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Ed.